My friends, welcome back. We're going to be looking at the 11-2 homework together. Number 1, or I should do number 2 instead. And then I'm going to do an example where we're going to be working with a trapezoid here. Number 2, find the area of each trapezoid, rhombus, or kite. So I have a rhombus. The formula that you need to use is A equals 1/2 d1 d2. I have the area, which is equal to 1/2 of diagonal 1, which is 10, and diagonal 2, which is 18. So this is going to be A equals 5 times 18 because half of 10 is 5. So 5 times 18 is 90 meters squared. Number 5. So it says solve for x. The area is given. The area of this trapezoid is 78 centimeters squared. Remember, a trapezoid has one pair of parallel sides. So this side is parallel to that side. Therefore, I can use my formula here. It's A equals 1/2 the sum of the two bases multiplied by the height. The height is always perpendicular to the two bases here. So A equals 1/2. Base 1 is 6.4 plus base 2 is 13. Multiply that by the height, which is x. The area is actually given. We're not solving for the area. We are solving for x. So the area is 78, so replace A with 78. Let's put this all together. You have 78 equals... Okay, I'm going to figure out what 6.4 plus 13 is. That's 1/2 times... So this 6.4 plus 13 is 19.4. And you're going to multiply that by x. So now, this is what you need to do. And you can write this, in any way you want. I have 1/2 of 19.4, which I'm going to put in my calculator. So 19.4 divided by 2. This right here is 9.7, and then you got to multiply that by x, so it's 9.7x. Divide both sides by 9.7. That is x is approximately, if I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, let's just round to the nearest tenth because you're going to get a decimal for this one. X is approximately 8 well, it's just going to be 8 because it's 8.04, and if you're rounding to the nearest tenth, that 4 is not going to change that 0 whatsoever. So really it's just 8 centimeters. 8 centimeters. All right, so then there you have it. For number 7, by the way, I just need you to make sure you are very, very careful with this one. This is 16.4, and this is the whole diagonal. This is x. So how long is this segment here? Note that these two segments are congruent. All right, let's go ahead and do number 11. Just like I explained on number 7. You can see that we have our diagonal here, which is 17. And then look, we have this whole diagonal, but this segment here is 8. And it's congruent to this segment. So that means that since this is 8, this also has to be 8. But that whole segment there is 16. So using my formula, A equals 1/2 d1 d2. The area is equal to 1/2 of 16 times the diameter 2, which is 17. So I got, 16, I got 17. You multiply those two, then divide by 2. You can do that if you want to. Or you can do 1/2 of 16, whatever that is. You multiply that by 17. So many ways that you can perform your arithmetic on this one. But the answer is 136 inches squared. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. I am going to do number 19. This one is a little confusing. The area of a rhombus is 168 square centimeters. If one diagonal is 3 times as long as the other, what are the lengths of the diagonals? So let's see. We are dealing with the area of a rhombus, which the formula is A equals 1/2 d1 d2. In fact, I am going to write that over here. So A equals 1/2 d1 d2. The area is actually given, it's 168. So 168 equals 1/2 of d1 d2 diagonal 1. Okay, let's read this part over here. It says, if one diagonal is 3 times as long as the other, what are the lengths of the other diagonals? So I'm going to highlight this important information right here. Important information. So it says, if one diagonal is 3 times as long as the other, well, do we know how long is this other here? Well, no. So let's call one diagonal, this is phrased as one diagonal. We're going to call that D1 for diagonal 1. And then this other diagonal will be D2. We don't know what D2 is. That's our unknown, so we'll call that X. And then over here, one diagonal, that's D1, or represented as D1, diagonal 1. That's 3 times as long. So that's really 3x. So then let's replace D1 with 3x, and we're going to replace D2 with x. So 1/2 of 3x times x. This right here, that 3x times x is 3x squared. So 168 is equal to 1/2 of 3x squared. Okay, so then you can, I'm going to show you both ways to do this problem. You can multiply the 1/2 and the 3x squared just like this. So it's 168 equals 3x squared all over 2. So you have a fraction, right? And then this is where you want to get 3x squared by itself. So what do you have to do? Well, you got to multiply both sides by 2. So then you have 168 times 2. Let me go figure out what that is. 168 times 2 is 336. And that is equal to 3x squared. You got to divide both sides by 3 here. So then you have 112, which is equal to x squared. Then you take the square root on both sides. So square root of 112, which is 10.6. Because I'm going to round to the nearest tenth. So x is approximately 10.6, right? So the diagonal 2 is 10.6, approximately. And diagonal 1 is approximately, so 10.6 times 3 is 31.8. And both of them are centimeters. Okay? All right, so that's one way to do that problem. So the other way would be actually multiplying 1/2 and 3. So 1/2 times 3 would be, so you get 168 on the left-hand side, which is equal to 1.5x squared, and then you will divide both sides by 1.5, and then you will take the square root. You should get x is approximately 10.6. You plug them in, and there you have it. You got diagonal 2, and then you can plug in to figure out diagonal 1. All right, so let's see. Number 20, I'm just going to set up the equation, and I want you to attempt. Because, remember, well, first of all, let me read the problem. It says a trapezoid has a base lengths of 12 and 14 feet with an area of 322 square feet. What is the height of the trapezoid? So, A equals 1/2 of B1 plus B2 times the height. So the base lengths, basically we plug them in, and then we see that the area is 322, so we can also plug that in. So 322 equals 1/2 of 12 plus 14. Multiply that by the height. You get 322. And look at this. I can just say 12 plus 14, which is 26. Yes. So 1/2 of 26 times the height. What is 1/2? Oops, there's the equals, or I need to put an equal sign there. 1/2 of 26 is 13. So 322 equals 13 h, and then you can go ahead and figure out what the answer is from there. Okay. All right. There you go. That's today's homework help video.